Hello everyone, welcome to the live. Don't know whether it's running on, whether I'm on live. Yeah, I think I am now. Okay, how you all doing? Welcome to all the new subscribers that we've had over the last couple of days, which I've got to thank Jeff and Mara for introducing the new subscribers to the Astroflower. Hello Frasier, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Lovely to see everybody, as it were. Yeah, I was so bowled over by this podcast that I did. If you haven't seen it, you should be able to see it in a link on most of the videos that I've put out over the last couple of weeks. Oh, hang on a second. There we go. Oh, blimey. Had the feedback on the video. Yeah, so I did this podcast with Jeff, lovely guy, absolutely beautiful guy. Thanking you very much, Jeff, and Mara, by the way. I haven't spoken to you yet. Yeah, it was a great conversation. Hopefully, we will be doing a lot more of that conversation in the future. So, yeah, it was all about the NDE, as it were, and stuff like that. And there was lots of other stuff that came into it. Generally, and there's a lot of questions, and people are very proactive in giving their point of view and everything like that. It's absolutely fantastic. Hello, Diane from North Canada. Is it North Canada or High Canada? Julie, how you doing? Everybody's starting to come in, so there. Yes, I wanted to let me just, because the comments are starting to come in. I just want to make sure the comments, that we can see the comments. Okay, there we go. I've got that on the thing. Let's get it out there like that. So, yeah, there was actually a couple of things I really wanted to talk about. I don't know if you've all seen this 3-eye atlas sort of thing. I did do that video on the 3-eye atlas about remote viewing it and stuff like that. And there's a lot of other things that's come out about 3-eye atlas at the moment, which has been very funny. And I'm just going to zoom my comments up so I can see who's commenting. Steph, how you doing? Hello from Bournemouth. Yes, the Bournemouth Massive. So, yeah, hello Bournemouth. Yes. Yeah, so I was going to do there's a few things come out about 3-eye atlas as well, about it sort of like putting jets out in other directions and towards the sun, and it's acting like an intelligent motorized sort of thing and everything like that. And I wanted to speak about that because there's a few things that I think maybe we've got to understand that before we start making huge assumptions. You know what I mean? I haven't got any. We can't see it at the moment because it's on the other side of the sun. Liddy, evening, and Kim, evening. How you doing? So if you look at the sun and how the sun actually works, and it's going round our universe at 70,000 kilometers per second, which is pretty fast. Megan, how you doing from Palm Springs? Coral, lovely to see you, Coral. I hope you're doing well. Yes, welcome, Megan, to the Astroflower family. I'm not sure if I've seen you before on there. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. Sorry. But yeah, no, it was 3-eye atlas that was. They were talking about it giving pulsating in a particular rhythm. It was, pulsating towards the sun rather than just having the normal coma that goes out the back. And I'm going to do a full-on video on this on Cymatic TV because I think it's very interesting. And I sort of remote viewed it, and it came across as like, within all material there is a physical memory of, let's say, if a planet exploded and one of the rocks went shooting off into the universe, it would take with it the understanding, or a certain understanding, albeit very very crude, but an understanding of what life was like on planet Earth. Because it's remembered that. That's what our cellular memory is all about. our cellular memory is for the Earth. We give our cells back to the Earth, so then the Earth can then turn around and kind of go, okay, so the humans are doing that, right? Okay, and the whales are doing this, and the trees are doing this. Okay, maybe Houston, we have a problem. Maybe, it's that sort of thing. So, the son sort of turned around to me and said, "Don't poke the bear in that video. So don't go too deep into it." Because there was this whole sort of like prison factor. And there was a lot of people. The reason I'm talking about this as well, because I did this podcast. If you haven't seen it, it was a fantastic thing. And people were talking about being that planet Earth is a prison planet and so forth. And it got me sort of like, obviously, you've got to explore these things. And you explore every sort of avenue. And, other people look at it as a beautiful vibration of nature, and that there's amazing things and wonderful things. And there's many different aspects or different points of view that we can understand. And even if it is a sort of a prison, or some people say it's a place for us to learn as well, which I'm much more inclined with myself. But, so, the whole idea of, I'm doing well, Odelia. Thanking you very much. I hope you're doing well. The whole idea of this comet that's going through our solar system, and that our sun is also a comet going through a galaxy system, if you like. And maybe this comet is acting a little bit like a sun in a way, where the sun will give out rhythm. You only have to look at sun cycles to understand the rhythm of the sun is just phenomenal, and it is right on cue, as if it's like mechanically made. It's like a propulsion system that's gradually pulling us through the throughout the entire sort of space, as it were. So I'm in the process of finishing a long-term project which is called Flying Spaceship Earth. And, that comes from a phrase from a gentleman called Buckminster Fuller, who was an architect and designer and future visionary as well, a little bit. So, it's understanding that our solar system is also like a vessel that's going through another galaxy, and maybe 3i Atlas is just a really miniature solar system. Because they're talking about, there's lots of things that are attached to 3i Atlas, and so it's possible that it could be this. And when you get two solar systems, regardless of their size, interacting with one another, I think the sun is connecting to it in a way as if to sort of push it away. There's been many times when there's comets that come in the wrong direction towards the sun, and the sun has had to do a solar flare, and it pushes the comet round the sun. And but then there is like 100, maybe 200 times a year, you have comets that go into the sun, but it always goes in the same corridor, and it's like yeah. There you go. Do I give a thumbs up? Is that what it says on the thing? I can't see it because I can only see the comments. Is it doing that sort of thing where if I do that, it does like champagne and stuff like that? Is that what it's doing? I can't see it at the moment. So, but yeah, it's it could well be like a mini solar system that. And this comes on to the whole idea is this place a prison planet or is it in a school planet? And, some people would say school is a prison. Other people would say school was the best years of my life, And I think this is the whole heaven and hell sort of scenario. It's hell for some and heaven for others. And it's like that. It's a little bit like that's what life is like, as it were. So, I think I'm going to be visiting 3i Atlas again. I just thought I'd give you a bit of a heads up and a bit of accumulation on the sort of like the questioning that came through from the the Jeff and Mara sort of podcast that we did. So yeah, so it was like very good, very thought provoking conversation, and everything that came after it as well. So yes, so welcome to all the everybody, as it were. Have you got any questions about anything about sort of like energy, or sort of like anything that sort of went on? How's everyone's week been in regards to sort of energy? As a Capricorn, I've found that consistency and trust, which I talked about in Capricorn this week here, and it feels like the energy's sort of blowing into that sort of direction there of energy of sort of trust. More than anything else, which is really nice. Just wondering how the energy's been for you guys and everything like that. If you have any sort of like questions about what's gone down in the way of energies this week, we did have an uptake of M flares and so forth, which increased that sort of fiery energy that sort of went over like 2 or 3 days ago, and that's why I was combining the sort of water, fire, and earth combinations, because now we've got filament energy and corona hole energy coming through, which is earth and water. So we're getting back to satisfying our needs to build our future, or walk our path, as it were. So it's I think it's a very, very productive week, as it were. What else have we got coming up? We've got some sort of alignments, planetary alignments as well coming up. Let me see if I can bring that up for you. I think they're coming up in the next sort of like few weeks or so. I need to find that. He's not going to come to me, is he? Where is it? I've got so many pages open now, it's unbelievable. Once you start investigating something and going down a rabbit hole, it takes up a lot of space, as it were. Oh, here it is here. So let me just get rid of some of the comments. I should be able to sort of like play it back to you as we got on the 16th. And we get that. Yeah, once you get into November, that's when you start getting some alignments between Mercury, Earth, and Venus. It may even be just before that, with a combination with Mercury, Earth, and Uranus as well. There's been quite a few sort of like connections between all of those sort of things. I've lost now the comments on there. It's terrible. And what is planetary alignments is like it's where we've got the flow of the planet as it goes round the solar system, and if we're flowing through that sort of like the tail of the comet of the energy from the planet in front of us, it becomes a lot more sort of important and stuff like that. You enjoyed the interview, did you, Mel? Did you, Diane? It was a great interview, yeah. We went into a lot of different things. Talking about sort of spirit as much as sort of like, the energy process that goes through when we're moving from one plane to another. So, there was a lot of things in there, yeah. I don't know if it was mainly like this sort of like today, I was just sort of wondering if anybody had any sort of comments on all of that sort of things, if you had any follow-up sort of questions, because certainly I've been receiving a lot of questions through the comments and also the email and so forth about various things that were in the video. There was this thing about as well. There was a couple of people commented all about, and when someone finishes their existence upon this planet. And what's that whole process like for, what's that whole process like for someone who's going from this side to the other and stuff like that. And in my experience, when I do a lot of my stuff with with energy and working with energy, is that I find that a lot of spirits that are caught between two worlds tend to be the ones that sort of decided to end their existence, and that's not a good thing. And it's like that whole, this is another thought as came to me about the whole prison planet and stuff like that, and kind of going, well, even if it is, let's say it's like a prison planet, you've still got to wake up in the morning, you've still got to go shopping, you've still got to take a shower and take a dump, you know what I mean? We're all going to do those sort of things. And is the prison not of your own making? And this comes up to the whole idea of we're coming into the whole idea of the transition that we're going through and that we will go through is one of understanding. And that was another thing that was coming out about, because it's, Jeff does a lot of interviews with people who do alien contact and so forth. And, and I gave my point of view on that sort of thing. And, it's with the idea of like a prison planet. If we're learning something, should the aliens allow us to then go wandering off into the universe if we haven't streamlined our consciousness into something that's more creative rather than destructive? And that's the sort of thing that came out of that sort of thing. Kevin, lovely to see you. Been a creative week of doing Christmas cards and working on my self podcast was fantastic. Yeah, it was brilliant. Judy, would be very interested in buying books when they're printed, most certainly. That's my autumn affair, because obviously I've got my birthday, and usually that's the sort of thing you do in the last 3 months before your birthday, according to what I've seen in the rhythms of human beings. The last 3 months before your birthday, it's a good time to reflect over what you've been doing over the past year and what you want to be doing in the future. But there's also a time where you've got projects as well, which have accumulated, which you haven't been able to get through. And you can take that time, the last couple of months before your birthday, just relaxing and actually doing a few things that are already there, but need completing. So certainly writing and everything like that will be part and parcel of that. I will let you know when that's all sort of like up and ready and rocking and rolling. Surreal, lovely to see you. With respect to the 3i Atlas remote viewing, you mentioned that the sun advised you not to poke the bear. I'm curious, does life exist within the sun? Yeah, I think so. I think the sun is a conscious being. Always part of the conscious being. It's not like, you can't turn around and sort of say the sun is a human. But it is part of something that is far greater than we can actually understand as humans. But there is a certain degree of consciousness that it is performing an act within the universe. It's following the natural process, as it were. So there is a degree of consciousness, and which may also contribute to a far greater thing. I'm not saying there is a community of solar systems. It's called a galaxy, and that's what that's all about. And it's like I think the sun is a conscious, and it is making conscious interactions between each planet within its solar system. And we have, NASA's monitoring with the swarm thing, satellites. I think it's the swarm satellites. These geomagnetic cords that go between the Earth and the sun. So whenever there's something happens on the sun can literally just speed it right down those geomagnetic cords. And it will affect the plasma ball in the centre of the Earth because it's part of the sun. Originally it was part of the sun. And so I think it's totally all interconnected. So does life exist within the sun? Father Ra. Yeah, that's probably, Kevin, yeah, totally. That's the whole idea. It's, I think, understanding our future, we need to understand our past, our present, and our future. And dismissing a lot of the past of just kind of going, but they weren't civilized people and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's like, kind of like, I I discovered a lot of things without any technology, just by observing what's going on in the energy field and in nature and how nature acts and stuff like that. It's bringing everything into alignment, and this is why I think this is a year of truths that come out, where we're finally getting, we're distilling and getting the impurifications in the system. And this is where we come back to the idea that, is it a planet for learning, planet for prison and stuff like that? Our karmic paths, some people may look at it as if you're we all sort of say we're here to do something, and normally I would agree with that. But as I've explained this before, if you've heard this before, I do apologise. But if you like, you get like a karmic block, an old karmic block, and it's a square karmic block, and you learn every aspect of a situation by living different lives. This is as far as I can tell, is what's happening on this thing, and so these karmic blocks have been around for a very long time, thousands of years, and the blocks are coming to the end. They've done everything, and this is why we see in younger people a different karmic block, which is, it's not like a block, as it were, anymore. It's much more like a lava lamp. So it's much more fluid and so forth, and it's a hexagon shape rather than a square shape, and it can hold a lot more information. And that's why we had technology that was developed for this time as well. So the speed of technology has increased the speed of thinking, as it were, within people, and that's why we need a karmic block that is way much more quicker. So the people who are born who have a karmic block from the old generation, which I would say is the majority of us, your work's done. And that is, it's very disarming, because almost afterwards, there's not a path that you need to tread. It's more a case of, with all your understanding that you've done in multitudes of lives, this life here is kind of going, what part of the path would you like to revisit? So it's like going through a life review on multitudes of lives. So a lot of people feel that they need to do something. I need to, I need to complete this for my karmic block. I need to do this. But you may not need to do it. Maybe you want to do it. So a lot of it is can be sort of like distractions in a way from just actually enjoying ourselves and enjoying the part of, say, like, it could be sharing or helping someone, because there's an absolute joy in helping another person, even if it's just a case of opening a door, or, do you know what I mean, or saying to some person, do you need a hand with your shopping, or whatever it is, simple things, but that whole idea of sort of helping, because we're now in a stage of voluntary. So because we've completed, we can voluntarily give across the best parts of us. Maybe that's, maybe the purpose in life at the moment is to really, remember those bits of pathways in different lives that you enjoyed. And some of them could be, learning about things. Some of them can be creating art. Some of them could be cooking, There's discovering those moments in your life where it's really important. That's what it seems to be at the moment. So I wouldn't worry too much about, that you've got to prove something. You've just got to live it more than anything else. That's what it seems to be. So, lovely purple portal and receive symbols from the sun. Okay? So you're getting a purple portal, are you, Kevin? You're receiving information from the sun. Well, that's where the manual Akashic Library is for me, for this system here. You know, it's that go-between where we learn and we learn and we learn, and we gradually take that understanding to a collective understanding. And when you want to know something, you go and then, you know, get the information from the collective understanding. So there's a lot of information, yeah, from the sun. There is no doubt about it. So that's what, you know, that I think, regardless of whether you look at it as a place to learn or you look at it as a prison, or if you know, that sort of thing, then you still got to live it the next day. And if you're going to live it the next day, why don't you just enjoy it? You know, and it's not enjoyment at the detriment of another. Often enjoyment. See, the magical ingredient, I talk about pleasures in life. So I talk about the 7 wonders of the world, the true 7 wonders of the world. Okay? And we learn those 7 wonders of the world between the ages of 0 and 9 months of our lives. Right at the beginning, when we can't even speak or walk. You know, and it's the very simple things like colour, taste, odour, shape, sounds, textures, and temperature. You know, they're the 7 wonders. When you get those things working in harmony, you're going to have a good time. You know, and you know, once you get, but the magical ingredient of all of that is sharing that 7 wonders. So when you make chips, you know, you'll get the 7 wonders. You'll get the temperature, you get the smell, you get the colour, you get the taste, you get the texture, you know, you get the shape, and you get the sound. You know, when it sings in a particular way, a chip, you know it's right. And, you know, sharing those chips, or what's it in American? Because I got called up on this. What was it? What's chips in America? Because chips in America is that, isn't it? It's potato chips. It's not chips. It's, what is it? Fries. Fries. There you go. You know, so it's not, because we call them chips in the UK, but you call chips crisps. We've got that really weird word that nobody in a Latin country can pronounce. Crisps. They just kind of like. Anyway, you know, and that's the sharing aspect of it is really important. That's why, you know, it can't be detrimental to another in one form or another. You know, it can't be like that. You know, following your thing is the greatest thing. My youngest granddaughter, this is from Suri, my youngest granddaughter, who is 6 years old, is incredibly attuned to the universe, and her insights are truly profound. Could a karmic block be connected to this? Yeah. At some point, we have to understand that we have that aspect of life that we have chosen to ignore quite happily for some time, and I'm talking probably hundreds of years actually. That you know, when you look at the codices, you've got those 2 snakes that go around the staff. When you look at the medical world, it's only 1 snake. It's because it's missing the other side, which is all to do with energy and all to do with the spirit side of things. And so, you know, at some point that has to all come back together. So, you know, for kids are very in tune, and they can lose it because the world can dumb people down, you know, I think it was easier growing up when we were back in the 70s, when we didn't have things like computers and telephones and stuff like that, or even in the 80s. You know, I think it's a lot harder for kids because it does zap their sort of attention, as it were, their way of being, as it were. I need chips now. You don't need chips now. Julie, you don't need chips. Hi Scott, how you doing? So Kevin says, yes, I close my eyes and the symbols, and get the symbols, and can look at the sunset to see see this portal. You're talking about sun gazing, aren't you? Which is a particular time of day which you should look at the sun, so it's not detrimental to your retina. But you can, you can get certain rays that are very particular from the sun. And yeah, looking at sunsets is a really good idea, and looking at sunrises is a very good idea. And yeah, I do get that totally. I do get that, Kevin. The thing is what do the symbols mean to you? Is it really telling you a story, or is it like just massive information that you have to sort of sift through and stuff like that? I would get a working system that you can understand it. Like most sort of technological stuff is written in binary because it's really easy to understand. So, I that was one of the things I started doing when I was really young, is trying to work out a system to understand things, getting a code in place. So it's a lot easier for me, because there's a lot of information when it does start coming through. It really does start coming through. And you need a childlike mind to sort of understand it. And to, you need a childlike mind to see the simplicity in the whole sort of thing, and see the simplicity within nature itself, and when you see the simplicity between how a thing works. So basically, if you go to the edge of a forest, you're more likely to see brambles, blackberry, bushes. And in those blackberry bushes, what it does is it actually, when the seeds of the tree falls to the ground on the edge of the forest, the new shooting trees are protected by the brambles that are around it. And when that tree gets big enough, the brambles then gradually just move out. So the whole forest is a moving thing. It takes a long time for it to move, but it's a moving process. And it's like, the simplicity of how they engage in life in the way of trees and in a forest, is pure beautiful, and it's really highly efficient. So, and I think this is what energy is trying to help flush out things within the human being. Over this, certainly, I don't know if you felt it, but it really does feel like that there's a lot of things that there's a lot of things that have been wringed out of the human species, or the human entity, or the human energy, or human memory and stuff like that at the moment. And you may well feel it as well. Good advice, was it, Kevin? It'd be interesting to see what, because I understand the symbology, and this is what I got. Getting into sacred geometry is absolutely brilliant. Morning, Chrissy. Hope you're doing well. The sacred geometry is really, really important. This is why you get to a point where once you go up to a septangle triangle, not triangle, star, a star like that, it's a 7-pointed star. Once you get to a 7-pointed star, that's when the sacred geometry just goes boom and opens up in a different way, almost like a multitude. That's where you get fractal. The idea of fractal sort of comes in there, around about the sort of 7th. But the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are very predictable, and a 6-pointed star is in theory 2 3-pointed stars, one facing one way, one facing the other. 5 is part of the square as well, which you can do. There's, once you get into the sacred geometry, so this is where the binary system could come out. So you've got to look at your symbols and sort of like see what it's trying to convey to you, like the figures, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's the way figures are done also is a form of sort of like symbology. But yeah, I hope you're doing well, Chrissy. I hope the world is good for you down under, as it were. Yeah, so there's a lot of information that came out about after that podcast I did at the weekend, did on Friday. What was the other thing that came out? The other thing that came out as well was about feeling and emotions and love and peace. Because I equated like being the other side by it just being pure peace. And love is a sentiment, be that a love for another person or love for the universe or whatever, and it's peace is not the absence of emotions, it's the harmony of the emotions. That's when you're in peace. It's not ignoring the emotions, and because someone was sort of saying, well, within peace, if you don't have emotions, you're obviously ignoring emotions, or something along those sort of lines. I can't remember exactly what they said, but it was a really good, interesting sort of like point, and I was just sort of saying that, you know, without the body, you can't actually have an emotion, and the way I describe love, it's like if you take out the physical body, try and describe what love is. That's that's a lot harder than sort of like kind of what's love. When we can often, you know what it feels like, but to actually describe it is quite difficult. And I describe love as being like a river that goes between the mountain and the sea, and it's like, one person connected to another person is not a mountain, and the other person is not the sea. You can't create that river, and you can't give that river away to someone, but that river will exist even if we don't exist. Love will exist. There is love between plants and animals and stuff like that. That will always exist even if we're not there. But it's just like, it's a flow of frequencies that harmonize in a particular way that gives us a good feeling. And we can all bathe in that love by, bathing in that river, sharing that river, swimming together in that river, cooking, washing, fishing. There's lots of things you can do in love. And, but it's very difficult to sort of describe when you're no longer talking about the actual physical feeling of it all. And the idea is that when you go next door, as it were, or the other side and stuff like that, you no longer have your physical body to actually feel things. Okay, so fantastic Scorpio reading this week. Certainly was a fantastic Scorpio reading this week. Spot on directing my purpose. Excellent. That's didn't you? I think there was you did a comment on there as well, didn't you, Chrissy, about it? Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, chuff for you. Go for it. Julie, it was interesting to speak on the NDE. I had a weird time many years ago, but I had as nothing mattered, and I had no emotions. Yeah, it can certainly happen in life. When you get to a point where you can't hate the situation, you can't love the situation, it is what it is, I guess. And maybe it's a moment when we let go of the emotions. I also say that people who go through life-threatening illnesses or situations, it's very similar. You get a very similar attitude afterwards. When we were talking, I did a couple of videos on cancer as well. And people come out of going through cancer and have a completely different a view on the world. And it's very similar to the view that you get from people who go through NDEs and so forth. They're much more concerned about, the here and now. And sometimes their reasons, when people come and see me, when I'm doing a session with someone and they've got the big C, as it were, saying your reason for living is just for your children and so forth is not a good enough reason. Life is harsh like that. as well. And so it's a very different and difficult conundrum, the big C, for people to work out the meaning or the understanding that comes from situations that are life and death for the body, because and that's when we give the body back to the earth. Everything turns back, even if isn't Metatron associated with sacred geometry? Metatron? Is this? I'm taking it on as isn't it like it's a little bit like the Kabbalah? Is that, if I'm right in saying that? The Metatron, is it like the Kabbalah? Have you got a picture of it? I wonder, maybe I could look up what it is. It rings a bell. I've certainly come across it at some point. I wonder what it is. Let me just have a look. Okay, yeah, so it's the six-pointed star and everything like that, Yeah, but it's like and people are associating it, the Megatron, so you're associating it with also sort of chakras and stuff like that. Funny enough, you could do in a way. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. No, it doesn't work. It only works with 5, really, on that one. But there, Metatron. I know what it. I remember what it is about now. Let me just bring back the comments so I can see. The Metatron. The thing is, if it's an equal-armed cross, so, if it's a equilateral triangle within a circle, you wouldn't get to 19.5 degrees, because it will be split up in 3 perfect, in 1, 2, 3, in 3 basically. So you're going to get those sort of like 60-degree angles on each one, which works out on the crossing point, as far as I can remember. I think it's like 30 degrees or something like that, rather than 19.5. But okay, I'm just catching up with the thing, with some of the comments. Sorry about this. Obviously, I missed a few things there. There's obviously a lot of hugs going around. Julie, apparently there's hugs for you a lot, which is good. Angle that visited, the angel that visited Enoch. Who's is the Metatron? Is the angel that visited Enoch? Is it? Is that what that was, Chrissy? Absolutely. I guess that's what it is. Let's have a look. Yeah, because you do get the okay. So this is Enoch and who was another one? There's two people or 2 characters within religions and myths and stuff like that could go between the 2 worlds, and was given the key to go between heaven and hell, as it were, and get the information from both sides, and he was welcome in both sides. That's that whole sort of like the yin and the yang. You've got the white and the black and the black and the white. There's got to be a go-between, and that's just the way it is. There's a go-between on both sides, and I think the 6-pointed star is a very good go-between. It symbolises the yin and the yang. So it symbolises, you've got one triangle that points upwards and one triangle that points downwards. And that whole Star of David is actually a bit more mechanical than, I would say, the yin and the yang explains whereas the 6-pointed star, the Star of David, which plays in It's a some form of dodecahedron that plays into the Metrotron. That gives the mechanical side of the yin and the yang. So there's two sides to the story. There's the logical, or there's the emotional. And it's getting those two in streamline, which is the name of the game at the moment. So he's the head of the Akashic Library, the Archangel Metrodich. Did you comment on it last time, Megan? And I kept getting his name wrong. Was it you? It may have been. Yeah, the head of the Akashic Library. It's like the main administrator. He obviously is not handing out books. He's just making sure it's all free flowing. You know, when you go to the library, you will speak to a librarian rather than the person that's running the library service in your country. Enoch, yeah, is one of them. I think. Yeah, there is another one. Is considered to be the architect of our world. Yeah, okay. So there you go. Yeah, it is the architect. Exactly. But when you're decorating your house, you're not going to talk to the architect. You're going to talk to the decorators. You know, so that that's what I was saying there. But just seeing what energy sort of says on that. He's a lovely angel. He's consistent. He's very consistent. He takes off the woes and worries of life through giving you knowledge and understanding. That's his role as an angel. So, in order to see the conundrum between heaven and hell, that's why Enoch was given the key between the two places. They could go between the two. And Enoch as well, this is the other thing about Enoch, is that he's only one of two characters, I think, that never actually dies within the Bible. He's taken off the planet, as well. So, yeah. There's a lot of people coming to the Astroflower. It'd be good to set up these, it'd probably be good now to set up these sort of like Zoom meetings where we can do these lives where we can actually see each other and talk to each other in real time. I think that'd be really good. I'll have to get that sorted at some point. I do have it sorted. I just have to relaunch it, because it can get booked up through links that I can put out. And then we can talk and have some sort of like straight conversations, as it were. But yeah, connecting to that sort of, he is the angel that gives you knowledge and understanding. And this is where I was, and I was saying this as well on the podcast as well, energy will show you what you're ready to see. And it's the same thing with the Akashic Library. It's only going to give you things that you can grasp. Otherwise, it'll drive you mad trying to understand. Most enlightenment of people having issues with enlightenment, opening up their Kundalini, as it were. The Kundalini energy is like, it's not that they don't know, is that they know too much. And how you assimilate the information is key to doing a lot of things, basically. Yeah. Thank you, Sully. Yeah, lovely. No, I'm a first timer. Okay, you're a first timer here. Just learning all about these things. Curious. Recent chimp activity over the world. Chimp activity? Really? It does happen, yeah. We had new ones born here, okay, and then an elder one broke a zoo window. All right, okay, you're working in a zoo. This is what I was saying about, people were sort of saying aliens are coming to collect us and take us off to another place. And until we get our ducks in a row about consciousness and common sense and everything like that, and start living together, it ain't going to happen. Simply because of this. And this is where we come to it. There was a safari park in South Africa. And it's been a safari park for over 25 years. Big place. I can't remember the name of it. And they had yellow lions in the safari park for 25 years. Then all of a sudden, and with no introductions of new lions into the safari park, and then all of a sudden, the lions that were being born were white lions. And it's the dormant gene within them. So if we haven't got it straight and we get taken off this planet outside, the dormant gene of the unaligned consciousness could come back to the surface. And that's why we're not going to be saved. Because it's far too dangerous for everything. And I can totally understand it. I don't have a problem with that. You're not gonna let something into your house that's going to cause you harm. I think everybody would do that. Where do I find the podcast? I'll send you a copy. I'll link it to it. I did have it somewhere. I'll find it for you. But it was over a podcast called Jeff Mara podcast. Let me just, what I'll do is I'll copy the link. And I'll put it in the comments. Let me get back to the comments. See, I do everything around here, which I don't mind. There it is there, Chrissy. It should be in the comments for you. That's why we're not going to be taken off this planet, because it's too risky for the rest of the universe, and I wouldn't at any given point want to put the universe at risk. It's like when the conquistadors from Spain went down into South America and they took TB and all of the illnesses that Europe had, and it decimated the civilizations within South America and North America. One of the secret arms, I guess, of that sort of thing. And it's a similar sort of thing when, in talking about, will we be taken off this planet by aliens and stuff like that? I think this is why, and this is what Suli said, this is why, the sun said, don't poke the bear. Because likewise, we don't want, and, Three Eye Atlas that's going through, I was just letting it go through, it looks like it's off on its own mission, and it will get seeded somewhere and create a solar system where entities can, or people can come and learn and understanding. Some people will obviously see it like a prison or what have you and stuff like that. Tommy, what were your insights on the Gregorian calendar? I keep receiving information. Right, okay. Well, the Gregorian calendar before the Gregorian calendar, we had the Julian calendar, didn't we? And Pope Gregory, I think was it in 12 something or 10 something? I think it's 12 something. You might correct me if I'm wrong. Created the calendar that we know today. And if you look at like December was the 10th month. That's why it's DC. November is Nov, which is 9. October, which is the octagram, is 8. September is the 7th. and then we had, September, and then we've got Augustus Caesar and Julius Caesar, which was then created the Gregorian calendar. Now, the Gregorian calendar is very interesting calendar. It was much more in line with the sun than it was within the moon. So, if you look at the sun, so if you're looking at the sun, the poles rotate at around about 25. It takes about 25 days. 25 days to rotate, to do a rotation. Earth days to do a rotation, right? It's 25 rotations to one rotation of the Earth. And in the equator, you've got 35 days to the rotation of the Earth. And between the two, the most perfect point between the two is that that 45 degree angle, or the 30 degree angle, 45. I've got the maths here somewhere. But anyway, that angle there. And in that angle there, you have a rotation of the sun, which is roughly around about 30.52 days. And that's where we get the 30, 31, 30, 31, 30, 31. And it reflects the rotation of the sun. And how do they know that in 1200s? That's a question possibly that needs answering. And it was it all channeled through the information and so forth? Now, they kept 1 month, dedicated to the moon, which is February, which is the 28 days. And it's also, obviously the menstrual cycle, and it's tied also to Venus and stuff like that. There's lots of things that it's tied into. So, and it's also, February is that time of renewal. And it is a time of renewal because it's the moment that, you sort of giving away from winter and working into spring. Because the spring equinox and solstices and everything like that is the pinnacle. But actually, you've got another rhythm that goes between the two, as it goes from one to the other. So, that's when we went from a lunar thing to a solar thing, a solar cycle. With that sort of calendar there. What sort of other information are you getting through on that? Of how they knew it? Why did they do it? Well, the other thing as well is that Libra and Scorpio were two signs that were created out of Sagittarius and Virgo. In order to equate to the Gregorian calendar. Otherwise, in theory, there should have only been sort of like 10 signs. And you have Sagittarius before had the tail of a scorpion rather than the tail of a horse. It had the tail of a scorpion. So, it was made into those sort of two things. It's all in relation to the end of the Mayan calendar, to why it needs change, as we are out of sync with the natural flow of the universe. Yeah, there's many issues that I had with 2012. I think a lot of people will probably remember that period there. I was doing conferences before that. Started in around about 2010, I think, giving conferences about it's not the end of the world, 2012, 21st, but there is a big shift going on. And there was an amazing thing that happened on that solstice. Usually the energy doubles on the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. it doubles. Same thing in the southern hemisphere on the equivalent of your winter solstice. It will double, and it didn't really double. It came through really slow and lapsadaisy and everything like that. And then it was like as if we had 5 years of non-existent energies. And then in 2017, it sort of like started kicking back in. And that's when it started rinsing stuff out. And I think that's when we had the massive Pluto effect on Capricorn that started really getting serious from 2017 right up to, what was it, last year or this year or whatever it was, that it moved from into Aquarius, signifying the change of ages. And it's, the problem we have with the calendar is like, when does the Gregorian calendar really start? Is it the supposedly the crucifixion? Is that right? Is that when AD starts? Is there 0 years that goes between the crucifixion and the birth of JC? How does that work? And that's why, 2012, 21st of December 2012, I was just kind of sort of saying, look, man, you're not supposed to know the time or date. And I would still agree with that. And so I think there was a lot of hoo-ha about that. But the Mayan calendar, I totally go up with. And maybe it was in 2012, it was started where, because the Mayan calendar is a series of different calendars. I've forgotten exactly how many. There must be I think there's 200 odd or whatever calendars that go together, like a Swiss clock with all of its wheels that go together. And there's one particular wheel in the Mayan calendar, if my memory serves me right, is where there's 5 days of void, as far as I can remember. At the end of each calendar, there's a 5-day of void before you start the new section, as it were. And I think, the Mayan calendar needs to be re-looked at majorly and equated to our modern day life, because they used to do lots of things. They had a lot of things like they used to observe the sun through what they called the magic mirror, where you could get a hole in the wall, and that's where you can get a beam of sunlight comes through. It gets reflected off a mirror onto water, so then you can observe the sun without burning your retinas out, and you'd also be able to see sunspots and stuff like that. So, and it's not that that's impossible, because in China they recorded black spots on the sun during sandstorms, 2,000 years ago, whatever the recordings is. So, am I supposed to be getting out information about the Gregorian calendar according to the Mayan calendar? I can certainly look at it. When one sees orbs floating around, are they the spirits of our dearly? If they were, they wouldn't be in the light. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't say they are. They may be. They're like capsules of information. This is actually what actually, Sue, you've really hit on something here, right? When you give over information, right, from one side or another, is it all black for me? Is it, what's gone on? Have we lost? Because I can't see any. Oh, it's because it's not playing. Is it our dearly departed? Oh, the Zeitgeist movie. Let me just finish on these spheres. When you pass information in the energetic world between one person and another, it's like a sphere of energy that comes through you that allows you to perceive the information. You don't actually take anything. You're just absorbing it and then allowing it to go through, so then someone else can get the pure information from direct from source. And I think it's more like that. So it could well be, you could look at it as sort of like messages from your dearly, as it were. It's very, very possible. If I see spirits, I tend to sort of like see the spirit like that, as it were, rather than in spheres. But then again, as I said, like when I went up to see the council first, it's like I converted into a sphere. I knew what was going on. I converted into a sphere, and that sphere just went through the people, so I could, there was a straight given explanation straight away, as it were. And I also, in one of my books, which I said, like, in the event, it's like, it's in a way that's how they keep the Akashic libraries. It's like sphere of information, because you can keep a lot more in a sphere than you can do in a square. But yeah, it's when I'm looking at energies, obviously I don't get spherical things. When you're looking in the physical world, you may see that. So Chrissy says watched an interesting the Zeitgeist movie. Yeah, very interesting. Talks about explain Christmas. Yeah, exactly. The return of the sun dies for 3 days. That's why I'm born on the 23rd. You know what I mean? I'm on that moment when the sun dies on the 21st, solstice, and then it's dead for the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and then he's reborn on the 25th. And what star sign is it? What star is it? It is Venus. I can't have Virgo in my head. Venus, that stays and points exactly where the sun is going to rise, and it stays in the same position for 3 days, and then starts moving the other way. And it's the idea that, and there's multitudes of characters in the past have the same story as JC. I wouldn't take away from the fact that JC existed and stuff like that, but I'm not sure the story that is expressed is is what happened, basically. But it's very good movie. Very good movie. Yeah. And they did quite a few things afterwards. They did something about the about finances and the currency and money and stuff like that. Yeah. It was interesting that all the religious deities had a similar life story. Yeah, exactly. I can give you my, that's one of the things. There was another question that came out from the podcast as well. Someone was asking, it's strange how humans, they're all, it's all about the human when they get a message from the other side. And why don't they get explanations of how animals work and how they came about and everything like that? And part and parcel of it is because we're tied into a belief system, into a story, JC is one of the penultimate energy workers. Yeah. Yeah, totally. He came from the house of Buddha and went to Israel to get a following together to protect the homeland, or the place where he was in the Himalayas, in the Kashmir region, and but had a great understanding of energy. Yeah, had a great understanding of energy, and ended up back in the Kashmir, as far as I can tell. You know, but he used energy. He was, in the sense of sort of like healing and so forth. There's a lot of things he understood about energy. He's an amazing person, as it were. It occurred while I was having so this is about the orbs. This is coming from Sully. So it occurred whilst I was having a conversation with my mum on the first anniversary of her passing. Oh, I asked her for a sign that she was still with me, and suddenly an orb appeared in front of me. It's like, Harry Potter, when they're sitting around the table and then a bird comes in and drops them off the post. I would have stuck my finger in the orb and kind of go, okay, and downloaded the information. Did you do that, Sully? And in front of me before fading away. Okay, well, that was a good enough sign. Was that a good enough sign to sort of say she's there but she's not there, as it were? I always say that family members become our greatest fans that are cheering us on. So maybe that was a really big cheer for you. But she seems in peace, your mum. Doesn't seem to have any complications. Yeah. She's at peace. She's in a good place. It's blowing you kisses, that's what it is. In the form of bubbles. And that's a whole sort of thing, that's whole connected to the reincarnation thing, and people were sort of saying, I had a few comments on there that were saying that reincarnation, why convince people to get reincarnated? And the last thing I'm doing is trying to convince people to get reincarnated. You know what I mean? I always sort of say this is my last trip around, as it were. But there is a purpose for it. There has been a purpose for it. I don't think that purpose. I think that purpose has maybe come to its end, and that's what the ascension thing's about. The idea that when you pass over from this world, you can sort of say, well, I'm not going back into this system here. I want to learn something else, and then you can wander somewhere else. So if we see orbs, we need to put our fingers in them and feel the energy. Yeah, that's what I do all the time. So if I'm looking at someone, let's say I'm starting a healing channel called Healing with Tom. I'm doing the videos at the moment, so I've got some backlog of videos. So I'd like to be able to take it easy. And one of the things is when you're working on someone's energy and you're looking at their aura and you can see a sticking point. It's like this is going to be probably not so just nice to look at, but if you imagine sometimes when you buy chicken you get the stress moments in the tendons, so you get accumulation of blood and stuff like that sometimes in a certain particular place. That's very similar to what you get in the way of a stress related energy incident, and that's when you want to put your finger in there and just kind of go right and download it, ET style, phone home and all that malarkey, so the plant can then grow again. Oh, Sudi, seriously, I'm sorry, I didn't want to make you cry and everything like that, but sorry about that. I do apologise. Give you a big hug. She's your biggest fan, man. She's your biggest fan. What are your thoughts on DMT, ayahuasca, and psychoactives in relation to healing the mind and body and consciousness? So I look at, I'm a naturalist on my side. I'm a naturalist on my side in the sense that nature has provided everything that we possibly need in order to obtain a harmonious place which allows us to be one with ourselves. And I don't actually have a problem, certainly, with mushrooms and so forth, ayahuasca and so forth. But I do have this problem where you bring ayahuasca over to halfway around the world and do it in a place where it shouldn't be. And tears of joy. Whew. That's all right then. Not worried about that. Well, that's good. Good. Because you've got mushrooms and stuff like that, and I think each place has its own particular type of vibration, and if you're going to you do those sort of things, then I would only use local source, as it were. But I wouldn't encourage people to do it if you don't feel like it's a bit of a I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for that, I think, probably on YouTube saying something like that. But who cares? It's not that who cares. It's just that I'm not encouraging people to take things. That is not what I'm saying. It's if nature's producing it, what can you do? But I think it's very essential as well. And this is the thing I was talking about in. I didn't actually finish talking about it in that whole dream video either, about people who consume a certain type of leaf or plant. They don't tend to remember their dreams. And is it because they're too stoned that they don't remember their dreams? No, I think it's because that particular plant helps to dissolve the connections between the left and the right side in a very beautiful way, so you get automatic natural processes rather than going through the cortex. So it allows for free-flowing thought. It's like everything. If you overdose and you do too much, it's not good. But, that's probably why, we can't remember dreams and stuff like that. I can't handle booze, never. I can't do alcohol either myself anymore, for a long time. But, for someone who's soul searching, sometimes psychoactives and stuff like that can actually, Chris is the same. Yeah, I know. We're all, I'm looking at it like that. I'm looking at it from far away. And, but I think it can be very, very beneficial in order to sort of, people talk about ayahuasca as seeing that sort of spirit, that other side, and you get it a lot within Carlos Castaneda, when he's confronted with that big mosquito or something like that, which is, way much bigger than he is, and it's the guardian of the doorway to the other side and everything like that. Blue lotus seed before helps enhance dreams. Okay. So it is a bit like that. So if you're looking to, of that sort of thing, I've known people who do it, and I think if it's going to help you, I think it could be a really good thing. But I think microdosing is far greater idea than going all out, as it were, within that sort of respect, because you've got to bring everything into alignment. It's not just the spirit, it's also the material world. There's lots of different things that you need to get in alignment, and I don't think there's a DMT or that is going to resolve everything, but it may shock you back into your existence. Yeah, I can understand that, but yeah, there's a lot of DMT in eucalyptus bark, isn't there, and stuff like that. There's a lot of information that sort of gives us the reason why we see the world as we do because of DMT. So, I understand that it can have a major effect upon everything. I suppose like alcohol and stuff like that, but at the same time, the thing that's running the show is energy, and it'll be running the whole sort of thing. If someone has reached Christ consciousness, what does the aura look like? Thinking about people's aura, what they correlate and mean. It's like an octopus. An octopus can change colours and stuff like that. So, your aura will reflect what you are processing and your emotion that you're processing and how you're processing that emotion and so forth. It sort of tells the world around, the energetic world around you, that sort of thing. That's why koalas are so chilled. Yeah, exactly. They're all banging it on DMT, aren't they? But the aura sort of like reflects that. It reflects the working of the spirit, as it were, in a way, in a very much sort of like mechanical sort of sense, as it were. So Christ consciousness. So if you imagine you've got your crown chakra here, and you've got like this labyrinth that's inside the crown chakra, and sometimes the labyrinth is when it gets like Christ consciousness, rather than being a one-way labyrinth that you walk like that, you continue walking it, and eventually you come out on the same path, as it were. This is like Christ consciousness is a labyrinth that allows you to go completely through from one side to the other. And what happens is that the more complex the labyrinth is, the more that you can give space to your, not just your crown chakra, but all your other chakras. So if you imagine that a human is made up of 100 meters of rope, which does loops and makes the petals. If I was to give you another, say, like 10 meters of rope, you can then make much more elaborate petals within your chakras and so forth. So when you're looking at someone's aura who's got Christ energy, and I haven't, to be honest, I haven't really come across that within people as yet. To be honest, pre-Christ energy, yeah, I can see that a lot. But the aura itself, and the thing is, if that labyrinth that's in the crown chakra, if it really does start motoring, if you're looking at an aura, you're going to see like a halo and stuff like that. So I guess, Christ energy will be someone who's got like a perfectly shining halo. Have you seen those videos that I did? I didn't do it. That video I did where you got like a plasma chamber and you put it on an electro circuit, and then you can make that plasma into a ring donut. But it is basically explaining what the crown consciousness happens when the person reaches Christ energy. Because that consciousness then starts illuminating in a way that gives us the perception of of a halo sort of thing. And it could be fleeting as well within someone's aura, because it is a fleeting moment, and it comes through pulsation and so forth. But when on my workshops, when we're doing like the auras and chakras, once we're getting onto the crown chakra, you can get in there and you can douse, you can feel someone's consciousness, and it's not like consciousness of kind of like, it's like as I said earlier on, it's not a case of not knowing. It's sometimes more of a case where people have mental illnesses and problems. It's not a case that they didn't know. It's just a case that they knew too much, sort of situation. And it's not like when you. It's not like the consciousness is more of a connection to everything, rather than say like a piece of information, as it were. am I right that seeing aura with your eyes is different to the special cameras you can buy? Yeah. The problem is with the cameras you can buy, because the film is you're talking about. Is it Killian photos? I think it's called Killian photos. Very interesting, all the same. Very interesting, all the same. But this is, the aura, the energy of the aura is run at a frequency that's so low that the electricity is, is way above it, and it gives. It's not too dissimilar to what you see, but it's not as it's not as defined as that. It can be sometimes, but it's not really as defined like that. And it's an aura doesn't. It's moving constantly. The colours are moving. It's never stationary. It's moving. It's not like a rainbow. It's really moving all the time. Like I liken it to when you take a paintbrush, and you put it in water and you get that cloud of color that goes through. That's what it's sort of. It's more like that more than anything else for me. So I think those Killian photos, I think, is like gleaming a very low volume of information, of true information. So, I wouldn't rely upon it. At the same time, I wouldn't rely on, you see a lot of videos where people showing you the Schumann resonance, and you're saying, it's off the charts. But the thing is, if you go onto the official map where they're registering measuring the Schumann resonance, you can have one station measuring where it's low Schumann resonance and another one that's measuring where it's off the charts. And it's so random because those two measuring stations can be right next to each other. And then elsewhere in the world, it's going off the charts, and in other places, it's completely calm. It's so localized that you couldn't apply it to a general system, as it were. The rhythms in the Schumann resonance of the way in which we measure it is so remedial that I wouldn't use it as I don't ever put it in my videos because I don't. It's so unreliable as a source. So, yeah. Have you got a special camera? Because I think they're interesting. If it's like I had a French radio station. I was doing a radio station in France, not a whole radio station. Only did a show. Called Lucky Son, which is the sounding of the hour. And there was a gentleman on there, Gilbert, I've forgotten his name now, talked about taking photographs of the auras of standing stones and so forth, and he used a similar sort of technique for that. And he was a very interesting guy, was well up with the dowsing and everything like that, and very interesting guy, but sometimes the photographs and you're kind of thinking, it's like, you definitely see a difference when they restore the menhir to, the standing stone to when it wasn't restored. And so I get that. And there's a lot of stuff that he was doing was absolutely fantastic, really good. But it's also limited within its data, So I find that the Killian photos are very similar sort of things, because it's like when you're trying to look at someone's aura through a camera on is not the same. It's than when you're sitting in the room with the person. You know, it is different. I suffer from derealization disorder, really. Okay? I don't know what that is. That's the first I've ever heard of that, Chrissy. When I disassociate, I feel like I feel like an emotional observer, but not connected to my consciousness. Something like astral level. Okay. Is it a disorder? Really? Maybe that's what you should be doing. Gee whiz. I think I've probably got loads of disorders then. You know? Is that a disorder? Unattached. See, when you're meditating, I've got a hair there. There it is there. Thank you. When you're meditating, you're sort of detached from a lot of things. Meditation is good. So is it a disorder? Probably a good thing, Chrissy. You know, I would love to explore this more, but conversational therapy is based more on chemical, biological factors. Totally. Yeah. Once you know, it's, there's certain things you can do, obviously, a lot by sort of distance through energy, because that's where the whole quantum thing comes in, that although we are separate, we are part of the same thing, and that allows you to do work on somebody's energy from a distance without having to sort of go there and stuff like that. But there has to be, and this is part and parcel of being a healer, there has to be a point where the person that you're trying to help energetically has to also be applied in their own healing process. And once, if they get on that healing process, it's like, this is why when as I became a healer in France, it was the local healer in the village that had passed over, and I'd gone and shaken his hand just before he left. And it was a real Passover, you know, between one person and another to look after a village. And so I was doing that. And I wasn't allowed really to do any advertising. The only place I was allowed to advertise was in the village shop run by these two sisters who, they must have been near 80, the pair of them. And so I gave them my telephone number and told them what I did and everything like that. And that's how I met the other healer in the village, and how we did this Passover from it. So, you know, it's like people have to come and see me. I can't, you know, I don't really do a lot of publicizing the fact that you can have healing, a session with me and everything like that. I don't put it out there like that because I'm not, people will come to me who need to come to me, rather than, sort of like convincing people to come to me that don't need to come to me. I'm not up for that. I find that very boring. And there's a certain degree of complicity that someone has to have, that you, in the conversational based therapy, it's key. It's absolutely key, but it is one of the parts. It is part of the process, and the person has to be engaged in it as much as anything else. They have to make that decision to come and see you without you even knowing it. So that's why I work a lot on word of mouth. I put it into. I told these two old ladies that's what I did, and then by word of mouth, so they told people, and before you know it, had the garden full. And it's that it is based on chemical and biological factors. The fact that when someone decides to actually go for a healing or something like that, there's a chemical change within their mind, or within their brain, as it were. There's a lot of different factors going on. I've just realised that possibly you're talking about the medication of people. Yeah. So of that is conventional. Yeah, okay, so that's probably what I understand now. I didn't get it like that to start with, but I did. Yeah, I was explaining another aspect of it all. Okay, so I perceive. So this next thing is on Suli. So I perceive auras in various objects, including rocks. First time I experienced this was whilst playing golf. Fantastic. When I noticed the aura surrounding the ball, my team found it amusing and dismissed it. Yeah, you can see auras around everything. Everything. This is good when you're choosing furniture because you can see when furniture is going to last a long time. And choosing fruit and veg tends to be really good. How do you know if that melon's ripe? You can see it. It helps out with auras. I used to work in import-export of organic fruit and veg. That's what I was doing. And someone asked me to go and do an an inspection on a load of tomatoes. When I say a load of tomatoes, we're talking sort of like 20, 30 lorries of tomatoes. Now, there's 30 pallets in the lorry, so there's a lot of pallets, a lot of value on product, sometimes you're looking at 800, 900 pounds on a pallet, and there's 30 pallets in a lorry and there's 20 lorries. So, do the maths, it's a lot of money. And I get these tomatoes, and the thing is, I was saying to these people, look, you pick this tomato on this day here, you've kept it this amount of time, you get this black mold problem on tomatoes. And when you transport it halfway across Europe, that black spot will come out. So I'm going to be, the problem we have is that we're taking a big risk of transporting all of your product, knowing that by the time it gets to place, it's going to be unsellable. And you'll be able to, So I said to, so I explained to him exactly when the black spots will come out and everything like that, because you can sort of see that within the energy. And sure as hellfire, it all came out at that sort of time. And, but I refused I don't know how many tens of thousands of pounds it was. But, tens of thousands of dollars, probably into the $100,000 or something like that on one shipment because of an aura. So, and people can work out. People kind of go, "How do you know? How did you know when they picked it?" And they all kind of think, "Well, it's the way, it's the fruit and everything like that." But it's not. It's completely different. So I can totally get that. So is that the same Chrissy as dismissive avoidant? I don't know what that's all about. Not quite. The best that I can describe is right. I say. Is this the same as dismissive avoidant? That's what the thing is, yeah. Describe saying a word. Not quite. The best I can describe is saying a word do many times that it's losing its meaning. Well, this is the novelty factor. So when something comes new into your life, you're very interested in it, you explore it and everything like that. The more and more you explore it, the less and less it becomes new, the less and less it becomes important in your life and so forth. And it's like if you like chocolate ice cream and then you started eating chocolate ice cream every day, after a while you become immune to the idea that it's actually a very nice treat and stuff like that. So but I still don't think, I'm not sure it could, maybe it's not a disorder, Chrissy. Maybe it's good to be like that. I don't know. Yeah. So, total disconnection from reality. You've been playing with the koalas. Is that what you've been doing then, Chrissy? Have you? You've been playing with the koalas. Yeah. So there you go. Has anybody else got any other sort of questions and so forth that we might want to look into? Got the energy update coming out again on Cymatic TV, and we'll have the messages from energy again, obviously, this week here. As I say, I'm working on the videos on the background for 2 other channels that I want to be coming out. Because what I do in life has got so many different angles to it. I'm trying to separate the angles so then you can then concentrate on the aspect which is good for you. So if you're interested in what's happening with the planet and the energy in regards to what's happening between the sun, the earth and spirit and so forth, that's Cymatic TV area. The predictions and messages from energy, that's the Astroflower. The healing aspect is obviously going to be healing with Tom. And then another one which is all about sort of intuitions in life and stuff like that. So, thanking you very much for being here. Really do appreciate it. I'm going to sort of, I'm going to be shutting up shop, as it were. Thanking everybody for being here. Julie, Chrissy, Frisia, Kim, Coral. Absolutely lovely to see everybody. Kevin as well, thanking you very much for being here. Absolutely glorious. And Megan as well. Just checking, making sure I've covered everybody. Liddy as well, lovely. Scott, it was lovely to see you. And there's Kim, yes. And Diane as well, thanking you for being here. And Odelia as well, lovely to see you here. And Steph as well. So absolutely beautiful to see everybody. If you haven't seen that that podcast that I did with Jeff Mara, go and see it. It's worth it. It's good, really good conversation. And we'll look forward to doing sort of like the Zoom calls and everything like that. Thanking you very much, Kevin. Cup of tea. We got to have a cup of tea at some point, man. Yeah, next time. I'll see you next time. Thanking you very much for all of that. Absolute beautiful to see you. If you want to go on any of the workshops, by the way, there's still a few places left on at Kirby Longsdale, and Julie, I have to speak to you about that. And also down in Brighton as well. If you want to do that, you'll find the links to booking up, coming on the workshops down in the description. In the meantime, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody. Thanking everybody for being here. I will see you all soon. In the meantime, I guess all that's left for me to say is don't forget, life should be fun, so please do enjoy.